Hi, folks. Hello, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, rock and roll. Sam Healey.
All right, welcome to BackTalk. In this show, we talk about different topics and discuss them and see what our thoughts are. And today, I want to talk a little bit about different gaming cultures that can pop up in gaming groups and how you can deal with that, how a gaming group should or should not deal with it, and how we deal with that on a personal level.
Okay.
I find that when people play games, gaming itself is a subculture, right? I mean, we go online and we do a show about games, and people read and write comments about board games. The majority of people in the world do not do that. Mm-hmm. But even amongst that gaming subculture of whether it's online or in person, there are subcultures within that. And so these are some of the ones that I've come across. There's the Magic the Gathering has its own culture.
They're out. Keep going. What else? Oh my goodness.
Okay. Then there's the crowd, I call them the Munchkin crowd. They like Munchkin and Flux. They like those later games.
Out.
And they're very closely related to the newer Cards Against Humanity crowd, the party game people.
Out.
And those are the kind of games that they want to play at things. Then there's the heavy war gamers. They're their own culture where they want to play their own heavy war games and everything else.
They can stay up in the corner.
So
No.
There's the heavy Euro gamers, right? They want the meetups to be quiet and, they're not interested in hearing a bunch of people screaming laughter at a nearby game for any reason.
Right.
And I mean, any CCG, Warhammer is its own culture.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Right.
And the fact is that some of these cultures can coexist in a gaming group, and sometimes they cause problems with one another. Sometimes for space, but sometimes just for, like, for example, Warhammer. Warhammer is a flying game. And whether you like it or not, two guys playing Warhammer can take up 2 tables, while those 2 tables could host 3 board games.
Right.
All right, and so
It's not just Warhammer, though. X-Wing, the Star Trek inferior version.
Any of those big miniature games, yeah.
Yeah, any miniature game can really do that. Rebellion takes up a very large space of 1 table, and that's just 2 people as well.
Right. Well, we at our big Saturday meetups, we always have 2 folks who they come in and they play Star Wars Armada, and they're taking 2 or 3. I don't know how many tables they're taking. They're taking a pile of tables for 2 people. And I'm like, we could have fit a whole lot of people here.
Sure.
Party games, though, also a very similar thing, right? We're sitting here screaming and yelling, and maybe Cards Against Humanity shouting out really vulgar things or what have you, and that's annoying to people around them. Euro gamers sometimes are known, and war gamers too, heavy war gamers, for this whole, oh, you're playing that game? Type thing.
Right.
So, can we fall into the trap where we think our subculture, whatever part we're in, is better than everyone else's, right? It's easy for me, and I make a lot of jokes all the time on the show about heavy Euro gamers, heavy war gamers, and we mock them, and hopefully most of that's taken in fun. Sometimes I'm serious about talking about them to some degree, but for most part, it's like, oh yeah, those guys in the Euro games, we call them cube pushers and what have you. But can that be taken to a degree where you are actively making people feel unwelcome because of the games they like?
I think it can sometimes be done in a roundabout way, hopefully, because I think a group, even if they are welcoming, depending on the style of game they play, they are going to create an atmosphere wherever they are. And I think some atmospheres do not coexist well, And the 2 biggest ones I can think of is games where you are loud. That's typically party games. And then games where you need quiet to focus. And those 2 things will be at odds, at least in one direction, right? Like they allow people encroaching on the space of the, I use space in the oral sense, of the quiet groups, not so much the other direction. But so those groups are going to have a hard time coexisting in the same space simply for that quality, Being welcoming of them is like a different issue, but how do you solve that problem? You tell them to not be loud? The game almost thrives on that. That style of game requires it, It might not be technically part of the game, but why play if you're not going to do that? Be rambunctious and loud and enjoy the party atmosphere. Now, should you be playing that game at a game store?
That's where I was going with this.
Right? Maybe not, because it is the most, playing that kind of game is disruptive. There's no, I mean, that's not an opinion. You are being louder. You are, it's like playing that game at a library would be disruptive.
I think it's less of a question of allowing that culture to exist within a game group. It's less that kind of question, and I think it's more of not really educating people, but having a common sense about you that understands that this game is loud and it's going to hurt others' experience in the game. It's having a value about other people's space more than, well, we want to shun that entire group of people that want to or enjoy playing that kind of game. It's not just that. It's just that game is better suited for a different setting than a meetup game night at whatever store.
Right.
Because there's a lot of different people going to be there, a lot of different types of games being played. So I think for us to be, if we're going to be exclusive, we should not be exclusive about the type of games that we play. If that makes any sense.
I understand that, but this is a situation when I first moved to Miami, we made a attempt to start an actual group with rules and things, a gaming group. It kind of aborted, didn't really work out well. But I remember when we sat there, one person said something to the effect of, "Okay, we're gonna try to meet up, but we were gonna try to go meet in libraries or wherever we could find to meet up." And someone said, "Okay, well, we need to exclude Magic the Gathering," because for a couple reasons they were worried that that culture was not one that meshed well with board games, and it really doesn't. There's a little bit of crossover. Sometimes a couple Magic players will come over and they go, "Oh, what are you playing?" It doesn't usually work the other way, right? But it can also, they're also worried that, hey, we'll invite Magic the Gathering. We only have 6 tables, and suddenly all 6 tables are Magic the Gathering. And also some people don't want to play, again, with the Warhammer 40K players because of the age group and the sometimes immaturity that comes along with that. And again, that's stereotyping there to some degree. But that was what was said by some people. And even though I was like, well, we should have gaming open to all, I can see those points, right? And like when I run a gaming thing, if someone says, "Oh, can I come and I want to run a Monopoly tournament?" And I'll be like, well, you can, but I don't know that I want to use up all these tables for something that a lot of people here aren't interested in. Is that being exclusionary then because of the games that person likes?
I don't know. What would be the problem with giving that person, let's just run with that analogy, a Monopoly tournament? What if that person has enough people that are signed up that want to do that?
If they're bringing them with them, right. But then what happens? See, what happens with people is they don't like necessarily a subversion of what they're doing. So let's say I start a gaming meetup, and it's board games and all these people. And then some CCG guys come in. They're like, "Hey, can we come here?" I'm like, "Sure." And they start playing Magic. And pretty soon, more and more Magic people come. And then fewer gamers come because they're like, "Oh, it's just Magic." And pretty soon it's all Magic the Gathering. And this has, stuff like this, maybe not that particular scenario, but stuff like this has actually happened. Where one sub-gaming culture
Where though?
Well, that has happened at conventions before, where role-playing was pushed out by board gaming, or vice versa, or, or like role players, like they started playing at a game store, and then a whole bunch of people came in, and it was loud and noisy. They're like, "Well, we're not playing here anymore," and so they left.
Well, yeah, I think that's,
when you let everybody in,
again, it comes back to
you let all the problems in too.
What Zee was alluding to a little bit earlier, and that is the setting.
The issue, we're talking about two kind of different things. It's not welcoming or shunning those people. It comes down to space is limited. I have no problem with people playing Magic the Gathering or playing miniatures games or playing war games. It just comes down to how much room is there and what is the idea for tonight. If I am having a movie night and tonight we are playing horror films and you come over and go, "I want to watch this comedy." Well, we're not doing that tonight. Well, you are excluding me. No, you can stay and watch the horror movies. Just tonight is not comedy night. It's the same issue.
So you think we should have theme nights for game nights?
I think we need to make sure that one group or idea...
For
huh?
It's a plug for Blender.
Plug for Blender. I think one group or idea or concept that does not mesh well with another one does not mean, hey, you, stop
Get
doing
out.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
It just means, can we come to an agreement as to when it's your night and when it's our night? Because space is limited. That's all there is to it. It is. And so if party games are going to bother the board gamers and the board gamers or the war gamers are going to bother these other guys, then play on your own night. Have a night about that.
All right, but what if you? Okay, so what? That's a little bit easier. But let's say I'm planning this, and okay, we're going to play some Euro games, and we're going to play some Ticket to Ride and Memoir 44, and your typical games that we talk about on our show. And the guy's like, oh, I want to come, and you're like, oh, so what do you want to play? Oh, I love Munchkin. Okay, great. What else do you like? Oh, I love Flux, and I love these. And you're like, okay, and you realize that they like games, but they like a very different type of game. And so you get, and this has happened to us many times, and I'll say, hey, let's play this game. Why don't you try this game? And they play that, and they have no interest in playing that game. They're like, I'd rather play Flux or Munchkin. And then I'm sitting there going, okay, well, I don't really have any interest in playing their games either. So then we're kind of at an impasse.
I don't see that being a problem. Look,
yeah,
if that guy doesn't want to play my game, I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play his game because I'm not interested in that.
That's a very...
But this is something that actually happens, though.
I understand, but I'm just saying it's a very micro, I guess, caustic. Is that the right word? Microcaustic? A very small view of the larger picture. I mean, I understand if you don't like playing that guy's game and he doesn't like playing your game, is that really an issue? Because more often than not, you're going to be able to find people at the same meetup group that want to play the game that you want to play. And that guy will probably be able to find
When the group
somebody.
is bigger.
Right.
And if not, and if he does not find anyone, then that is a self-correcting issue. He won't play that game.
I guess I always worry about that sort of thing, right? I always sit there.
If I bring my prototype, and I want to play my prototype, and it's garbage, and no one wants to play with me, that issue will correct itself.
Yep.
Eventually, I'll stop pushing my crummy prototype and play other games, or I'll find guys to play the prototype, or I'll stop showing up, or something. It's a self-balancing problem. Why do you have to suffer through my bad prototype because you want to, include me? You want to make me feel good?
Well, I do want to include people, but yeah, I don't want to play the bad prototype.
Right. So that issue kind of suffers off. Now, I do think there's a larger issue here at hand that we as gamers have to actively fight, and that is looking down on other people's games.
I was just going to
There
say
you
that.
go.
All right. There's my segue. I was going to talk about that.
If we have, because it happens. I know you walk by some guys playing some war game and you go, oh, look at these guys playing this garbage, whatever.
They do. I don't.
Well, whatever. You might do it about Flux, right? You might do it about something. We all do it to a certain degree, and the trick really is to catch yourself doing it and go, this guy, whatever he does, is the
He's
same
enjoying
stuff I'm doing. Someone else looking in on me doing this stuff would go, huge nerd playing with cardboard bits.
Yeah.
But we find the way to divide ourselves. You know what I mean?
And not only divide ourselves, but we
to,
kind of rank ourselves too, right?
We do.
The heavy Euro gamers, I get so annoyed with these guys, like, oh, you played that light game? I'm like, I hate these guys, what's wrong? Then I'll walk by someone playing Munchkin, I'll be like, poor guys. They don't know what good games are. I mean, I might not even verbalize it like that, but that is my general thinking process sometimes. I have to be like, hey, if that's what they like, that's what they like.
You have to do that. You have to actively go, don't think that way.
And not even...
These guys are just at a different place, or not, or that's what they like.
Yeah,
Maybe they've been gamers for 20 years and they want to play Munchkin. So what? It's a toy. It's a game. That's the toy they want to play with? Cool.
You could have literally just walked by after they got through playing one of your favorite games, and they happen to be just playing this as a palate cleanser until they jump into one of your other favorite games.
But it doesn't matter, because even what you're saying, we have to be careful not to think of it almost as sympathy, like, oh, that's what you enjoy, that's good. And in the mind, like, well, your game's not as good as mine. I used to play those before I was enlightened.
Right.
And we have to be careful. No.
It's that superiority thing. Like, me and my games are better than you and your games.
And I'll be honest, I have definitely been guilty of this in my life many times. Sometimes verbally,
Everybody
sometimes
has
attitude-wise. You're like, oh, that's the game you want to play?
Well, I would imagine everybody has done it.
And it's just something I think you have to fight, though.
Yeah.
Because it
You
really
do. You
does,
do.
It really does hurt a group more than anything else. because it will split people.
It
'Cause
right.
It really
that's the
ticks
idea.
me off when I say, "Hey, look at
Causes
this
a
cool
divide.
game," and someone's like, "No," and you almost feel like I'm sneering. You're like, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I've done that same thing to somebody else."
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, people are allowed to say, I don't like that game, or I don't want to play that game. That's a different issue. The issue I'm talking about is you are playing a bad game, therefore you are somehow a lesser gamer or person than me. I can think that game is bad. I'm still allowed to have opinions, okay? I don't want us to become such a bland group of people that we are not allowed to say, that game sucks. I'm just not saying you suck because you like it.
Right.
Okay, it's a different thing. We don't have to become so inclusive that everything is milquetoast bland and we can't express opinions. Just keep it to the game. That person is having fun with that game you hate. So what? They're having fun.
That's right.
So,
Well, there you go. Let us know what you think about that. What are your groups like? How does the different things happen? Maybe you've run across this. Maybe you're guilty of it in the past. Who knows? Either way, until next time, I'm Tom Vasel.
Zee Garcia, thanks, folks.
Sam Healey. See you on the flip side, y'all.
Woo!